The frightening thing is that it has become clear now that simply recognizing the artificiality of something does not ensure immunity to that thing. Simply knowing that you're an object of propaganda, is not enough in itself to armor one against the appeals of propaganda. That's really the message of 1984, George Orwell's classic. As I talk about it in my book, everybody's kind of aware that the propaganda is ongoing. That's what doublethink is. That's what the concept of doublethink means. It means that with one part of your mind, you can see that it's just a crock, and you don't fall for it, and you know that it's ridiculous. But with the other part of that same mind, you adhere blindly to it, you see. We as children of the Enlightenment have been brought up to believe that once you see through a thing, you are on the way to defeating it. But in fact, that's not necessarily the case. So that what is really necessary is that people begin to take a close, careful, critical, historically informed look at these images, not just kind of glance at them and say, oh yeah, well, I know it's all just a bunch of nonsense, because that kind of knee-jerk skepticism is not really a defense, you see. What's striking about it, for our purposes, is that the setting is pastoral, the image is escapist, the act of smoking informed by a strongly erotic element. Yeah, Terry?
The cigarette is long, slim, and elegant.
What I do in my classes is to encourage multiple readings of all kinds of ads over a long historical period. What about this?
It looks like a rape, an assault.
Well, it looks like that to me. Now, I want to prepare you by pointing out that although many of these images of male dominance are kind of grisly by implication, rest assured that the ones extolling female dominance are just as grisly, okay? Because every segment of the smoking market has to be stroked with the fantasy of power. I know this is probably a completely utopian thing to say, but people have to be taught how to use their own individual minds, their own consciousnesses, as a way to negotiate these images and gain some kind of true control over this really oppressive kind of atmosphere. Alive with pleasure. Go ahead.
I think from very early on, students need to be educated into the idea that images speak, that images say certain kinds of things, that there are values and priorities and meanings embedded in images, and they need to learn something about the vocabulary and the grammar of images, to be critical, to do critical readings.
True. I mean, here we have in the next one, the ultimate sophisticated, liberated woman. I mean, here she is. She's just landed at a heliport on the East River. She's on her way downtown to pull off some great deals. Ultimately, when the going gets tough in the deal, strip, right? This is what it's all about. Even underneath the liberated, emancipated, self-directed woman is the woman of old. Advertising also,
I think that what's valuable about that, making visual literacy a basic part of education, is it will take materials which are primarily currently directed at the emotions and the senses, and it will reposition them within the framework of critical reason and thought.
She was a fever from which I will never recover.
All we see is the erotic.
All heat and hunger.
All we see is the allure.
Senses.
All we see is the aesthetic side of it. When in fact, what those images are doing is provoking a kind of consumer behavior which merely perpetuates an economy predicated on waste. The utility of these images is really about encouraging people to get rid of what they have and to buy something new.
This year, we're introducing more of what America needs than any other...
I think part of the way in which these images work is that the destruction of the environment is silent within those images. I think that sort of beneath the image exists some of the most basic social, political, environmental, economic problems that we confront. I think it's a survival question in certain ways. It's a real question as we approach the year 2000 as to whether or not we're going to continue in directions that we've gone, or whether or not there is going to be rethinking and a redirecting going on. Somehow or another, people need to rediscover and reinvigorate a democracy of expression and really begin to ask hard questions about a democracy of possession, a democracy of images.